Now I shall talk about the word as cost. We put apples on the left side of the seesaw and money on the right-hand side. Now the cost of 10 apples was £1. The cost of apples doubles. Now the cost of 10 apples is £2. Please draw a table with the same as the one you drew before. From left to right, the columns are apples and money. And from top to bottom, the rows are apples and money in that order. Now we fill in the northeast cell. The ratio of 1 to 1 has been transformed into a ratio of 1 to 2 apples to money. So far, so good. We now investigate whether the cell in the southwest position is identical, i.e., does it have a ratio of 1 to 2 after the transformation when we invert the position of apples and money on the seesaw. We shall now put money on the left hand side of the seesaw and apples on the right. We investigate using psychological words, linguistic possibilities. The cost of £1 is 10 apples. This is previous to any change. Now, after the change, the cost of money doubles. How many apples can £1 now purchase? I must point out that cost is not the cost of borrowing money from any central bank or subsidiary bank, but we're treating the cost of £1 as a commodity in comparison to the cost of, say, $1 as a commodity. Treat money sterling like the cost of any commodity. An economist might say something like the interest rate increases, reducing the cost of money, and the price of it should go down depending upon a demand curve. But we're not talking about anything of the sort. We're saying that where money is, say, a banana, the cost of one banana is 10 apples previously, and if the cost of a banana doubles, how many apples can one banana now purchase? I'll give you time to pause to think about this. Well, the 20th century, the 21st century viewpoint, and the explanation of it is that previously £1 would buy 10 apples, so the cost of each apple was 10 pence, and if the cost of money doubles, subsequently the cost of any apple becomes 20 pence, so we can only buy 5 of them after this transformation in cost. So what do we have in our southwest cell in our cost table? Well, If £1 can buy 10 apples previously and only 5 after, that's the same as saying that £2 will buy 10 apples after. So our ratio from 1 to 1, money to apples, has become a ratio of 2 to 1, money to apples. But this is inconsistent with our northeast cell. Again, we have an inconsistency in the 20th century linguistic understanding, which is purely psychological, which exists entirely in our heads and nowhere in external reality. So we can already conclude that the 20th century viewpoint about the word cost is wrong. It is inconsistent, therefore it can't be true. The ratio is inverted depending on which position we put apples and which position we put money, on which side of the seesaw. It is asymmetric. We don't have a symmetrical ratio within the given transformation. Now the mystery is to examine which cell is correct. Is it the northeast cell or is it the southwest cell? To do this, we will need to examine the 18th century viewpoint, and hopefully it will be consistent. If it is consistent, we know it to be true, and this will reveal which one of our cells is the external reality. Please note that in the table for the 18th century price, both the southwest cell and the northeast cell have become transformed to the same ratio, which is 1 to 2. That is 1 to 2 of the left-hand side to the right-hand side. It didn't matter whether we place apples or money on the left-hand side, we got the same result. The semantic meaning of the word money didn't change that in the 18th century. We note that it did in the 20th century previously. I posit that the correct cell for the cost in the 20th century is the northeast cell. It's merely a speculation at this stage, and the reason I say that is because we have a seemingly non-absurd transformed ratio of 1 to 2 apples to money, left-hand side to the right-hand side. I believe that words and concepts should have clearly definable meanings, as indeed should prepositions within sentences. I note that the prepositions within the English language have become very chaotic, and this transitional change within linguistics has occurred beginning of Victorian times right through the 20th century up until the present day. To examine the concept of money further, let us consider what money could have been thought of during most of the Iron Age, which was maybe a pound of iron ore smelted from some mine. So I'd like to examine the northeast cell first, the transformed ratio of the cost of apples to the cost of money, which I've speculated as a hypothesis that it should be 1 to 2 apples to money, exchangeable amount of, which is after the transformation. This makes linguistic sense as a concept both in the 20th century and indeed in the 18th century, because the cost of something is the amount on the right-hand side of the seesaw when we put the something on the left-hand side. That is, if 10 apples on the left-hand side would cost £1 of iron ore on the right-hand side, then if the cost of apples doubles, then we now require £2 of iron ore to exchange by 10 apples. To put it another way, 10 apples to exchange by £2 of iron ore. Recall that we are treating iron as money, pounds of iron as money. Now invert these positions. Put money, which is iron, on the left-hand side of the seesaw, and put apples on the right-hand side of the seesaw. So we are saying that £1 of iron exchanges by 10 apples, and subsequent to a transformation, the cost of iron doubles. So we can infer linguistically that whatever is on the right-hand side of the seesaw, which is apples, is now going to be required in double the amount to exchange for what is on the left-hand side of the seesaw, which is £1 of iron. So when the pound of iron cost of doubles, we now exchange by 20 apples. This is the 18th century viewpoint, and it is logically consistent. It is semantically consistent, and it is syntactically consistent. Money doesn't do anything special semantically to the syntax of the seesaw. It is symmetrical. So the 18th century is correct, and my erstwhile hypothesis, which was that what is on the right-hand side of the seesaw doubles in amount by the word cost when the cost doubles of the substance on the left-hand side, seems sound. Recall I'd previously mentioned that the word price doubles the amount on the right-hand side. Now we can infer that the word cost doubles the amount that's on the right-hand side. We're forming a pretty picture so far, but what is concerning is that the word cost in the 20th century is inconsistent. So when we use the words cost of money, or indeed the more modern syntax, which is the words as cost to money, we are not hitting reality in the correct place. We're deluding ourselves, because when money is treated as a commodity, we fail. Money is no different to any other commodity as an external reality, I say, anyway. Here ends my discussion of the word as cost.